Hello, first grade. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of identity and self confidence. Our three main objectives for this lesson are students will be able to describe different ethnic groups and cultures, students will be able to identify the differences and responsibilities that each student has within the classroom. Finally, students will be able to determine if the story describes positive or negative aspects of self confidence. For our first assignment, we're going to be writing and drawing about a tradition that you and your family have. After we are all done with drawing and writing, we're going to share that tradition with the class. So I'm going to give you guys about 30-ish minutes to complete this task. Now that we have completed our first assignment and we've shared, we are going to move on to our second assignment, which will be completing an ed puzzle over the book, Who Am I? This ed puzzle has a few questions that you guys will individually answer, and then after we are done completing the ed puzzle, we will come back as a class and we will discuss what we learned. Now that we have finished discussing our ed puzzle, we are going to talk about the different responsibilities and roles that each one of you has within the classroom and also outside of the classroom. We're going to do this in a think, pair, and share. So first, we're going to spend about 2 to 3 minutes thinking to ourselves about what roles we have inside and outside of the classroom, responsibilities that we have outside of the classroom and inside as well, and also what other students' responsibilities and roles might be in and out of the classroom. Then after that 2 to 3 minutes is over, we're going to turn to our partner. If we have an odd number of students, which I don't think we do today, we would do a pair of 3 if we had to. We're going to share 2 to 3 things that we came up with, and then as a group we're going to decide what 2 or 3 things we want to share with the entire class. We're going to do this for about 5 to 7 minutes, probably 7 minutes, and then after that 7 minutes is up, each group is going to be called on. I'll probably do the popsicle sticks. And we're going to share with the class. I'm going to write some ideas on the board as well after we're all done so we can compare and discuss the similarities and differences that each of you guys have. And then we're also going to discuss the importance of the similarities and differences that we have. Now that we have completed our think, pair, and share activity, we're going to do some get the wiggles out for about 5 minutes. So that way we can sit down and focus and finish the rest of our lesson. Now that we've gotten all of our wiggles out, we are going to finish our lesson up by completing a 5-question assessment. This assessment is going to have 4 multiple choice questions on it, and then 1 question that is going to focus on more of using our thinking brains, as well as really thinking about what we just did in our last activity. You guys are gonna have about 30-40 minutes to complete this assignment. Let's get started. Now that we have finished that assessment, we are going to talk about the objectives and how each one of you may think that we completed and learned about the objective. So first, we are going to start off with the first objective, which is students will be able to describe different ethnic groups and cultures. So we're going to take some time to reflect on that in our own minds, and then we're going to discuss it. You guys had some great responses to that objective, so now we're going to move on to our second objective, which is students will be able to identify the differences and responsibilities that each student has within the classroom. So we're going to again take some time to reflect on this in our own minds, silently please, and then we'll come back together as a class in a few minutes. You guys have had some really great responses to our two first objectives, so now we're going to be reflecting on our last one, which is students will be able to determine if the story describes positive or negative aspects of self-confidence. So we're going to think back to the story that we listened to on our Ed puzzle, and we're going to think about the questions that we responded to. We're going to do this activity with a couple of our friends, so turn to a partner or two and discuss what we learned in the story, and then we're going to come back together as a class and discuss it as well. Now that we have discussed our 3 learning objectives, and we've really reflected on them and all of the knowledge that we've learned in this lesson, we have concluded our lesson. So thank you guys for learning and sticking with me. I hope you know how we can identify some positive self-confidence aspects, as well as how we can boost up our own and how we can also boost up our friends' self-confidence.